Hello Black Eagles, here is a special update video I wanted to record for you because things are heating up around the man you see above my head here. Orkun Kökçü from Benfica. Many of you will be familiar with him, of course. He's a Turkish international, former player of Feyenoord, but also, and this is a well-known fact, he is a really big Beşiktaş fan. He has been since he was a child. His entire family are Beşiktaş fans. His big brother is a Beşiktaş fan. His father is a Beşiktaş fan. His extended family are all Beşiktaş fans. He's coming from a really big Beşiktaş family, and that is going to play a key part in this video going forward. And I hope this can be informative for those of you who are maybe not so familiar with the situation. Beşiktaş fans abroad, maybe even Benfica fans who are wondering what on earth is going on. So I'm here to try and sketch the current situation for you a little bit. But before we do that, go and check out this QR code here. Click it in the middle of your screen. Scan it with your phone, and you can join our WhatsApp community to join the Black Eagles podcast WhatsApp community. We are talking daily 24/7 about everything and anything Beşiktaş in there. So all the tweets that I'm going to talk about today, we all discussed in that group. So for those of you who are already part of the group, thank you for being part of the community. But for those of you who aren't yet, please consider joining us and joining the conversation there. So, well, the title of this video, or as you can see on my side there, one of the illustrations I have is of Beşiktaş president Serdal Adalı, and I've titled it Grand Theft Kökçü. And the reason for that is because Beşiktaş are currently in the process of trying to commit the heist of the century, at least in Turkish football, by attempting to get a deal in place for 24-year-old Orkun Kökçü from Benfica. About 6 or 7 years ago, Orkun was already really close to a transfer to Beşiktaş. He was still in the academy of Feyenoord at the time, and a deal was really close. I believe it was then sporting director Serkan Dikme who had a deal in place, but unfortunately the people at the club back then, I believe Fırat Günayer and some other people at the club, stopped that transfer from happening back then. And of course, in the subsequent season, I think Orkun would make his debut for Feyenoord, and he would essentially explode on the scene and become a household name for Feyenoord, win the championship with Feyenoord, I think twice. So yeah, just to put that into perspective, Orkun has always been in a position where he wants to play for Beşiktaş. He has also always said, and he's gone on record, that he wants to one day play for Beşiktaş. He has also said that as long as Beşiktaş are interested in him, he would not consider playing for any other Turkish club. He has been asked in the past about, would you consider a transfer to Galatasaray? Would you consider a transfer to Fenerbahçe? And his answer has always steadfast been, as long as Beşiktaş are also interested, I will not join any other Turkish club. He has always made it clear that that was his ambition, to one day wear the black and white of the Black Eagles. And right now it looks like that day could be soon. And we talked about this the other day on our transfer video, and I said at the time, I don't see it happening. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. One of which is Beşiktaş just signed Tammy Abraham for 15 million euros. That is the current club record fee, 15 million euros. To put that into perspective, Beşiktaş have only spent more than 10 million euros 3 times in its entire history. Once was on Ernest Mucci, the second was on Al-Musrati from Braga, and now the third has been on Tammy Abraham. So just to put that into perspective, Beşiktaş do not spend big fees very often. And now here, when it comes to Orkun Kökçü, we're talking about a player who only 2 seasons ago signed a multiple year contract at Benfica from Feyenoord. Benfica paid a whopping 29.7 million euros. And please, Benfica fans, if I'm wrong, I believe, I could be mistaken, I think that is a current club record for Benfica. Please correct me in the comments if that's not right. Regardless, however, whether it's a record or not, that is a really big fee. It's almost 30 million euros to be exact. So if you then look at Orkun's career at Benfica, Orkun has not been unsuccessful. Orkun has just underrun 2 good seasons. Yes, Benfica did not win the championship, and Benfica are a club where if you don't win the championship for 1 or 2 years, that's not a good thing. Their standards are very, very high. Their expectations are very, very high. If you don't win a championship for 2 years, I think that gets put on the coaches, that get put on the players and all that kind of stuff. So I can't answer whether or not Benfica and Benfica fans see Orkun Kökçü as a failed transfer. If you look at his statistics, this season, he had, I believe, I could be mistaken, and I'm going to bring it up on my phone, but I believe he had about 20 goal contributions this season. Also last season, he had a decent amount of goal contributions, but I'm just going to quickly get it up on my phone. I should have had this prepared. Maybe even have a graphic up on the screen, honestly. I'm sorry. So this season, in 55 appearances for Benfica, he scored 12 goals and provided 10 assists. The season before that, in 43 appearances for Benfica, 7 goals and 10 assists. So in his first season, 17 goal contributions in 43 matches. In his second season, 22 goal contributions in 55 matches. So 12 games more, but also more goal contributions. 22 goal contributions from a player who predominantly plays as a number 8 or sometimes a number 10. That's not bad, right? Especially predominantly as a number 8. Those are some solid stats. So to say Orkun Kökçü has been a disappointment, has been a flop in Portugal, I think you can say that. I think that is definitely not the case. So that begs the question then, if they paid 30 million euros or close to it, at least with 29.7 million euros, why on earth would Benfica ever want to take less? Why would Benfica sell at a loss? That seems, incomprehensible. That seems impossible, despite the fact that he has had falling outs now with the previous coach, Roger Schmidt, and he has just had a falling out with the current coach at the Club World Cup. That is an issue in Orkun's career at Benfica now. He's had multiple spats with the coaches. I believe when he had this falling out with Roger Schmidt last season, he got put next to the team for a little while. Now he's having another falling out, and reportedly, according if we are to believe the Turkish journalists, then Orkun really wants out. He wants out of Benfica, and he wants to go to Besiktas and only Besiktas. So where does this start? I am going to try and kind of sketch a chronological timeline for you, so you can sort of put that into perspective. And this is mainly going to be for those of you who have not been able to follow it closely, whether you're a Besiktas fan, whether you're a Benfica fan, or something else. It doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to paint it into perspective. So on Thursday, on the 3rd of July, so 5 days ago now, one of the more, I'm going to call them reputable journalists in Turkey, especially concerning to Beşiktaş, Fırat Günayer. Please take that with a pinch of salt, because almost all of them, the journalists I'm going to quote with their tweets today, they are not 100% reliable. Many of them love to create buzz and get interactions and all that kind of stuff, or to get people to watch their streams. So there's a lot. These people, they are at one point they are kind of the most reliable sources when it comes to Beşiktaş news, but on the other side they also love to indulge in fake news just to get people to watch their streams, to get people to interact with their tweets and all that kind of stuff. So these are certainly not infallible figures in Turkish media. I'm just putting that out there. Me sharing their tweets does not mean I endorse or vouch for their credibility, and I'm going to put that caveat with most of them. But Fırat Günayer, he is somebody who is known to have close ties to the Beşiktaş president. He is kind of seen as almost the unofficial mouthpiece for the president. That does not mean that the president feeds him a lot of news, but when there's something that needs to be put out, it tends to get communicated to this guy. So the interesting thing here, he kind of kicked things off on the 3rd in the afternoon or the evening, even on the 3rd. He tweeted this. It's very cryptic, right? It's a Portuguese flag, it's a Turkish flag, and then some sort of emoji. So people not really sure what this meant. Lots of speculation in the comments. This was on the 3rd. And this is also kind of kicked off the reason why in our last transfer talk video I did include a little bit of Orkun talk. But as I said then, and I stand by what I said then, is that I didn't think it was necessarily a realistic transfer. And I stand by that. I think, especially for the time, that was not a realistic transfer. I am going to hit translate for those of you who don't speak Turkish. But so the next tweet is from Sercan Dikme. And Sercan Dikme, again, somebody who is known for reporting mainly on Beşiktaş. He is somebody who used to work for the Beşiktaş television channel a long time ago. A couple of years ago, I would say he was the foremost source on Beşiktaş news. He had really tight connections with one of the previous president's administration, Ahmet Nur Çebi. Back then, he was essentially the source of all credible news. But since Ahmet Nur Çebi is no longer in office, the previous president now, Hasan Arat and Hüseyin Yücel, he didn't get much news. And right now, under Serdal Adalı, who's only been in office for a couple of months, it's a little tough to say how reliable Sercan Dikme is right now. He is somebody who hosts a talk show with Fırat Günayer, the aforementioned Fırat Günayer, so they are at the same table and always constantly talking to each other. So maybe there's some bleeding over there in sources, but let's see. So this is a tweet, and let me have a look at the date here. This is also from the 3rd of July. And here Sercan Dikme says Orkun Kökçü wants to leave Benfica due to issues with Bruno Lage. Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe are interested in the player. Beşiktaş held a meeting with Benfica regarding Orkun today. If Beşiktaş and Benfica reach an agreement, Orkun Kökçü is very open to wearing the Beşiktaş jersey. Now, I mean, that's not necessarily super newsworthy. That's not necessarily a big news, but this continues, right? We have more tweets to get to, so let's get to the next one. And it's again going to be one from Mr. Sercan Dikme. This one is from, let's have a look. It's from the 6th of July. So this is 3 days later. I think this is roughly around the time that we recorded our last transfer talk video, or maybe after. So let's hit the translate button here for those of you who want to read along. Beşiktaş will push their conditions for Orkun Kökçü. Benfica's pre-season camp is on July 14th. Orkun does not want to join the camp. He wants to leave. He has informed Benfica of this situation. The course of the process will now be determined by Benfica's decision. If Benfica does not find the transfer offers satisfactory for their own interests, a loan option could also come into play. There are no issues between the player and Beşiktaş. If Orkun returns to Turkey, which is a weird way to say it, but I guess it's just a lost in translation sort of thing, his preferences is Beşiktaş. The process is lengthy and Beşiktaş is closely monitoring the situation. So, you know, at this point, I'm still thinking, okay, that's pretty generic. You know, that's kind of what you'd expect people to say. There's nothing really here where I'm like, oh, okay, it's time to get excited. But then the next day, on the 7th of July, this is what they call an özel post, which is essentially an exclusive bit of news. And there we go, it even translates it as exclusive. Movement has started in Portugal for Beşiktaş. Beşiktaş football operations manager Can Kaymakoğlu traveled to Portugal today. There is a possibility that President Serdal Adalı may also go to Portugal depending on developments. Two players from Benfica and Sporting are prominently on Beşiktaş's radar. So when it comes to Sporting, I believe we saw a couple of days ago there were rumors about their Japanese midfielder whose name eludes me right now. And in Benfica, obviously Orkun. And then there's some rumors around Sheldon as well, but whether or not that will manifest into anything, we'll have to wait and see. All right, so then the next tweet. Let's have a look at this one. This is still one from Sercan Dikme, I believe. Yeah, this is still Sercan Dikme. It is also on the 7th of July, so yesterday. Let's hit that translate button so everyone can read along, from those of you who are watching. Beşiktaş and Benfica officials have started face-to-face negotiations for Orkun Kökçü's transfer. Beşiktaş is very eager in the Orkun Kökçü transfer. Orkun wants to join Beşiktaş. The return plans of Beşiktaş officials from Portugal are not yet clear. So essentially just means, what it says. They're full-on negotiations right now, and we'll have to wait and see. There's no necessarily an ETA on when they expect the transfer to conclude. Talks are ongoing, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel yet, essentially. So then let's have a look at the next tweet. This is again one from Mr. Sercan Dikme. And this one was posted, I think, also on the 7th yesterday. And this one is essentially an update to the previous post where he said that Can Kaymakoglu traveled to Portugal to conduct negotiations with Benfica, but that the president may also travel. And this is an update to that. And he says Beşiktaş President Serdal Adalı is in Portugal. The president will meet with Benfica club officials. So clearly, Serdal Adalı has traveled also to Portugal, and this has been collaborated by multiple sources. So this was a tweet from Sercan saying that he has already arrived in Portugal, but we have some other tweets from other sources. Here is one. I'm sorry, this is the same tweet. I'll try and bring up the next one. So to collaborate that story, here is one from Murat Özen, I believe. Yeah, Murat Özen, who is for years now, I would say going on probably 15 years, kind of seen as the go-to Beşiktaş journalist. He has come and gone a little bit in terms of his connections within the club, depending on who was the president and stuff like that. And that's sadly how it works in Turkey. When Fikret Orman was the president, Murat Özen had great connections with that board, and he got fed a lot of news. But he was always, I feel like, responsible with it. To the contrary to other journalists who get news and then put it out there in the ether for everyone to know. Murat Özen is more somebody who is. He thinks a little bit more about the club first. He's like, okay, I have this information, but if I put it out there, it could endanger the transfer, so I'm not going to put it out there yet. That's kind of him. He's a little bit more responsible with his information. Whether or not he has really good connections with the Serdal Adalı board is something that we still kind of have to wait and see, because again, Adalı has only been the president for a relatively brief time, and usually it takes a while before you can say, okay, these people are clearly getting information firsthand, and they're reliable. But anyway, he did confirm President Serdal Adalı has flown to Portugal. The president will return on Tuesday and be at the TFF on Wednesday. So whether or not that is correct still, because we are currently on Tuesday and tomorrow obviously is Wednesday, and the deal has not been a deal has not been reached yet. Maybe he won't return today. Maybe he will. We'll have to wait and see. But he does confirm, he does collaborate what Sercan Dikme said there, that Serdal Adalı at least is traveling to Portugal. I did not look at the timestamps here, so which one was tweeted first, I don't really know. But it's just to give you a general idea that these stories are confirming each other. And then we have another tweet here. This is from Murat Özen again. Just confirming why Serdal Adalı is going to Portugal. So President Serdal Adalı is doing everything he can for Orkun Kökçü's transfer. Let no one have the slightest doubt. Many clubs are competing for Orkun. We continue to wait. So he is just confirming here, okay, Serdal Adalı did indeed travel to Portugal, but also he is confirming he didn't just travel to Portugal, because there's lots of different scenarios under which Adalı could have traveled to Portugal, right? He could go there just to negotiate for Jetson's 50% rights, which for the Benfica fans out there who may be wondering, Benfica still hold 50% of the economical rights to Gedson Fernandes. So that is something that has been a big talking point in Beşiktaş for a long time now. Beşiktaş want to get the remaining 50% of his rights. So for example, it could have been Serdal Adalı. Yes, he traveled to Portugal, but it's just for Gedson. No, here he is confirming that Serdal Adalı is indeed traveling to negotiate for Orkun Kökçü. And then we have another journalist here, Ertan Süzgün. One of the more reliable journalists in Turkey. Doesn't mean he doesn't put false information out there, but again, collaborating the story that Serdal Adalı and both Serdal Adalı and Can Kaymakoğlu have traveled to Lisbon. So yeah, that's also reacting to his own tweet, which we can have a quick look at as well. So that original tweet from him was, Orkun Kökçü's transfer is not an easy operation. However, President Serdal Adalı has a single sentence for Eduard Graaf. No matter the conditions to the event of Orkun's possible departure, Beşiktaş will always be at the table. You will push it to the very end. So essentially what he's saying there is simple. If Orkun is leaving Benfica, Beşiktaş will play a part in that. Whether or not he does end up coming to Beşiktaş, that's a different story. But Beşiktaş cannot not try at least. You know, Beşiktaş are at least going to give it a fair shot, a fair try, because it is not a player we want to miss out on. You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, what if, right? In a couple of years down the road, let's say he goes to Fener or he goes to Galatasaray, he does really well there. Then you don't want to be like, oh, why didn't we try? So Beşiktaş want to be at the negotiation table. If Orkun is leaving Benfica, Beşiktaş at least want to explore the possibility of getting him and want to push themselves as far as they can go to get him. The following tweet from Ertan Süzgün then. News from Orkun Kökçü's inner circle. President Serdal Adalı is playing big. Beşiktaş is doing everything it can. God is there. No worries. Patience. It's probably worth mentioning that Orkun Kökçü's family are quite religious, so just the God talk there, maybe that plays a part in that. All right, let's see. Next tweet again from Ertan Süzgün, and this one is from today actually, from 12:35, so noon. So he had an exclusive here. Benfica held a meeting with the players' side following Beşiktaş's offer for Orkun. Orkun Kökçü has allegedly said the following: I want to play for Beşiktaş. I'm ready to make every kind of sacrifice. I expect some flexibility from you as well. President Serdal Adalı, Orkun Kökçü, and Orkun's family are putting incredible pressure on Benfica for this transfer. So with that, Ertan Süzgün just trying to make it very clear that Orkun really, really wants this transfer. And let's have a look at the next one. Again, a tweet from Ertan Süzgün. Here he says, Benfica is stunned by Orkun Kökçü's stance, despite interest from major teams in Europe and Saudi Arabia. Whether this transfer happens or not, one thing is clear. Both Orkun's side and President Serdal Adalı are doing everything in their power. There are significant sacrifices happening behind the scenes. So this tweet is in reaction to the fact that Orkun has allegedly been turning down all offers coming. Supposedly there's interest from other clubs such as Liverpool, where of course his former coach Arne Slot is currently working. Inter Milan are rumored to be interested. Manchester United are rumored to be interested. Tottenham are rumored to be interested. Galatasaray, Fenerbahçe are rumored to be interested. Also, Saudi clubs are rumored to be interested. And apparently, according to the reports, Orkun has turned down all of those clubs. He only wants Beşiktaş, and he is essentially trying to force his way out to Beşiktaş. And then probably the most reputable Turkish journalist in general, Yağız Sabuncuoğlu, he stayed quiet on this for a long time, but he also had some light to shine on the situation. And he said, Orkun Kökçü has burned his bridges at Benfica. He wants to go to Beşiktaş. So far, he has rejected all offers that came his way. The player is pressuring Benfica to accept Beşiktaş's offer. So just confirming again what I was saying just before about Ertan Süzgün's report. So this collaborates that as well, that Benfica are kind of shocked by the fact that Orkun is turning down offers from really, really big clubs, some of Europe's elite clubs. He's turning down those offers to go to Beşiktaş, the club that, of course, club of his heart. And then I wanted to include this as well. This isn't necessarily a big news update, but Mustafa Karataş is personally somebody who I think is one of the most reliable Beşiktaş journalists out there. Also one of the more responsible guys, doesn't put stuff out there just to put it out there, just to get interactions or views or whatever. So I think this is a really good young and upcoming journalist who focuses on Beşiktaş. So this is what he had to say, and I think he has a very similar stance to myself. So far, I've approached it cautiously to avoid creating expectations, and honestly, I didn't think it was very likely, but Beşiktaş management is serious about Orkun Kökçü. Some formulas are being considered for the transfer. Orkun's side is clear, he wants to come. We're waiting with excitement. So essentially kind of doing the same thing I've been trying to do. You know, he was trying to downplay it, but it's getting to a point now where it's almost impossible to downplay it. It's almost impossible because things are heating up so much. Things are getting very concrete. Beşiktaş are very, very serious about this transfer, and it's almost impossible. It's just impossible to stay quiet, and that's also why I'm doing this video. I wanted to give you guys an update on the situation because it is evolving quickly, and it does look more and more likely that something could happen. And this is a tweet from earlier today from that same Mustafa Karataş. He says, "You rightfully want to hear new news about Orkun Kökçü, but there are no developments left anymore. The player has taken a stance at the level of let me go, and Beşiktaş wants to sign him. From now on, there's only one development left to happen. An agreement between Beşiktaş and Benfica. We're waiting, hopefully." So that's the last tweet from Mustafa on that matter, and let's have a look now at Sercan Dikme, the guy who's kind of been fueling these rumors for the most part. And Sercan's one of the tweets from earlier today is this: "The biggest reason Serdal Adalı personally went to Portugal for Orkun Kökçü's transfer was that the player and his family tanked and said no to serious approaches from Istanbul's other two major teams, Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe. Considering his career, age, potential, and the other offers received, if the Orkun Kökçü-Beşiktaş partnership happens, it would be one of the most spot-on transfer moves in recent years on paper. The president is doing everything he can for this transfer. President Serdal Adalı is discussing the primary option of a loan with Benfica officials. Orkun Kökçü is waiting for the two clubs to reach an agreement to wear the Beşiktaş jersey. We will share updates if there are any developments." This was tweeted this afternoon at 1443, so 2:45 in the afternoon, Central European time. And then I think this is going to be the one to last update. I'll have a look here. This is also Sercan Dikme. So these last two tweets are both Sercan Dikme. So this is a reaction to his earlier tweet about Orkun. So he is saying Beşiktaş and Benfica officials will meet again today to finalize the ongoing positive Orkun Kökçü transfer. And then let's have a look. This was in reaction to something he tweeted yesterday, I believe, where he said that the negotiations are progressing smoothly or progressing positively, as you can read here. And then the final tweet earlier today, this is, let me check when I am recording. I'll let you know when I'm recording this. It's currently 3 minutes to 4 in the afternoon, so 15:57. And right now, this was tweeted at 153 actually, so this was an earlier tweet. So let's have a look at what he says here. In the transfer of Orkun Kökçü, Beşiktaş has made significant progress in its negotiations with Benfica. Between Beşiktaş and Orkun, there is talk of a 1+4 or a direct 5-year agreement. Latest status: loan with mandatory purchase or a direct transfer will with his full transfer fee. If President Serdal Adalı finalizes the deal officially, they will travel to Istanbul together with Orkun Kökçü, who is currently in the Netherlands. The transfer is expected to be finalized within a few days. So that is probably the most hopeful tweet, I guess you could say, because he's talking about finalizing the transfer already at this point. This really all went really quickly. It's kind of a whirlwind. Like I said, it kind of quietly started boiling up on Thursday last week, but didn't really pick up too much steam until the last 24 hours. Yesterday, it really picked up steam, and it almost looked like, hey, something gonna happen tonight. I think a lot of Beşiktaş fans are zombies at work today. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night, probably hitting refresh constantly, whether it's on their phone or it's on the computer, hitting spamming F5 for refreshing. I don't know, but I think a lot of Beşiktaş fans lost some sleep tonight, hoping and praying maybe that the Orkun Kökçü transfer would be finalized. So I got asked a question yesterday, I think, by one of our people in the community. Go and hit that QR code you see there in the middle of your screen. You can join our WhatsApp community. He asked me, I think yesterday or the day before, he asked me, what do you think the odds are of Orkun Kökçü? And I said, I think it's very small. I think it's 5% or something. And the reason I said 5% is normally I would say it's impossible, because a player like Orkun, who's got a price tag between 30 and 40 million euros easily, that is impossible for Beşiktaş. Especially also, if you look at a player like Orkun, like he has offers, he has options in the top 5 leagues in Europe. Why would he come to Beşiktaş, right? So normally I would say 0 to 1%. But I gave it 5% because there's this factor that's really important. Orkun Kökçü is a really big Beşiktaş fan. And sometimes you have situations where, players are a fan of a club, but they don't really, it doesn't really affect them that much, right? They're professionals and all that kind of stuff. So, and they still have professional ambitions. You're a fan of Beşiktaş, for example, but you have the potential to play for Real Madrid. Yeah, then you're not gonna sign for Beşiktaş at 24. Most people wouldn't do that. Orkun Kökçü seems to be of a different caliber of person. Obviously you guys know Kartal, my co-host. You maybe know his twin brother Özcan. I think you probably in your direct surroundings, a lot of people who are like this, who say, it's easy, of course, when you're not a professional footballer, it's easy to say, if I was a professional footballer, my dream would be to play for Beşiktaş, and I don't care about Real Madrid, I don't care about Bayern Munich, I don't care about that, I don't care. I only want to play for Beşiktaş. There's a lot of people who say that, who are fans and who say that. But when push comes to shove, if they would actually be a professional footballer, it wouldn't come down to that. But Orkun is a person like that, it seems. He is really the type of person who is like, I want to play for Beşiktaş. That is my dream in life. I think we're also at a point where Beşiktaş are now giving out wages. If you look at Tammy Abraham, between 6 to 7 million between the 4 years that he's going to be playing for us. I think those are the type of wages where if you're Orkun, you can say, okay, I can go to Beşiktaş at 24. I'll sign a contract for 5 years, for example. Let's call it 5 million a year. I'm just putting a number out there. I think Orkun is the type of person who, and this is not due to a lack of ambition, mind you, but I think he's the type of person who's like, I can make 5 million net a year at Beşiktaş. I can make probably more in the Premier League, but I can make 5 million net a year, which is ridiculous. That's ridiculous money. And I can play for the team that I love. I can wear the number 10 jersey potentially. I can follow in the footsteps of Şifo Mehmet. I can follow up the footsteps of Sergen Yalçın. I can be the next big number 10 for Beşiktaş. I can play for the team I love since I was a small child. I think he's the type of person who, for him, that is probably more than playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona. And there's not a lot of people out there who are like that. So I think because of that reason, I gave it 5% the other day. But now we're at the stage, and of course, look, this could be media circus. This could be Sercan Dikme and all those people just, putting oil on the fire. But I do think Beşiktaş under Serdal Adalı have been relatively consistent in if there's something out there that, kind of goes crazy. I think they would have long denied this already. If Beşiktaş were not serious about bringing Orkun to Beşiktaş, I don't think Beşiktaş would allow this rumor to continue. I don't think they would allow this media frenzy to continue. I think they would openly deny it. And they haven't done that. And the fact that they haven't done that, I think, shows how serious they are. Also the fact that Sercan Dikme, Fırat Günayer, Murat Özen, Ertan Süzgün, Yağız Sabuncuoğlu, Mustafa Karataş, I think those are, if you're interested in business and you're gonna follow a bunch of journalists, and you obviously, aside from myself and the Black Eagles podcast, if you want to follow anyone, those are the guys I would tell you to follow. I would tell you follow Yağız Sabuncuoğlu because he, Turkish football in general, most reliable guy. I tell you follow Murat Özen. He's been for well over a decade one of the most reliable Beşiktaş reporters. I tell you follow Sercan Dikme because despite the fact that he is somebody who engagement farms, he's still one of the more reliable guys. He's still of the I have a love-hate relationship with Sercan. I tell you follow Fırat Günayer because he's close ties to Serdal Adalı. I tell you to follow Mustafa Karataş because I think he's the hottest young up-and-coming Beşiktaş journalist. So those are the 5 people I tell you to definitely follow. Ertan Süzgün, I don't know if I mentioned him. I also think he's generally one of the more reliable guys. So those 6, I think those are the ones I would tell you to follow. And all of them are essentially saying the same thing. I don't really pay attention to what people like. What is his name? Doğan Gündoğdu and you have Kartayit and you have those guys. These are the guys you should follow. If these guys are all kind of saying the same thing, it usually means that there's something there. And these guys are all saying the same thing right now. So that means there's something there. Beşiktaş are very serious about trying to recruit Orkun Kökçü. Again, I think, I gave it 5% the other day. Today I was asked again. I'm giving it 49%. And I'm leaning towards going to 50-51. And I don't like throwing percentage numbers out there, but, it's one of those things, people used to do that a lot back in the day. I think 7-8 years ago, journalists on Twitter used to do that all the time. It's 80% chance, it's this, it's that. But I do think at this point, we're at a point where it's almost 50-50. I think there's actually a chance. The main issue is, can Beşiktaş put together a financial package that is going to convince Benfica? The player is clearly not the problem. I think Orkun would come and play for a lot less than 5 million a year. But that's just the number I'm saying. That's not reported or anything like that. It's not something I know. It's just a number I'm saying. But I think that Orkun wants to come. That's clear. And he is willing to make a lot of sacrifices to do so. He's willing to leave money on the table. He's willing to maybe, I don't know what the initial deal was with Feyenoord. Maybe it was 30 million to Feyenoord, but Orkun also got 5 or 10 million or something promised over X amount of years as a signing on bonus. Maybe that's something he's willing to let go of. Again, just speculating here. But it's very clear he wants to come. Now the big question is, can Beşiktaş put together a package that is enticing enough for Benfica to be willing to let him go? Again, he cost them 30 million euros and he has had 2 solid seasons under his belt. So why would Benfica want to let him go cheap? Other than the fact that he's now had issues with 2 coaches at Benfica. Yeah, I don't think that's something that Benfica is going to be super willing to do. So the question is, what can Beşiktaş do? And then there's a couple of possibilities, right? I already yesterday or a few days ago when I was talking to Kartel in the transfer talk video, we were talking about a potential way to make this deal happen. And one of the things I said was, well, potentially we could tell them if a deal, Murat Özen reported this, I think last week, is that Beşiktaş actually have a concrete offer from Russia for Jetson. And right now it's down to them wanting to be able to get the remaining 50% of his economical rights from Benfica. That's just something they want to get sorted out before they pull the trigger and sell Jetson to Russia. But one of the possibilities you could say is, look, Benfica, if we give you your 50% stake in Jetson back, you can sell him to the Russians for, I'm just putting a number out there, 25 million, and we pay you an additional 10 million. So essentially, they would be receiving 35 million total. That's a scenario. Now, of course, from a Benfica perspective, that's like, yeah, okay, we'd be getting 35 million, but we would have gotten 12 and a half otherwise, and then we could still sell Orkun for 30 million, for example, and then we'd have 42 and a half, right? But then in turn, Beşiktaş can say, yeah, but if we can't get Orkun, we don't sell Jetson. Then you don't have those 12.5 million. That's all that kind of stuff. Another option is Beşiktaş negotiate with Benfica now to get the remaining 50% from Jetson for, let's call it 6 million, which then enables them to sell Jetson for, let's call it, 25 minus the 6, that's 19. Put another 12 or something on top of that, or 15 on top of that, then you're like 34 million or something like that. That makes it possible again. I think right now the key to getting a financial package done for Benfica is those 50%, is that 50% of Jetson. Whether we give him back to Benfica or whether they give us the 50% for a good price, that's, I think probably that's the easiest. If they let us have that 50% for another 6 million, we paid 6 million for the initial 50%. Then we can leverage that and sell Jetson to a Russian club for, I don't know, 25, 27, who knows, 23, for 20 plus million euros. And then we can use that money, put some money on top, and get the Orkun deal over the line. I think that is a possibility, and I think this is probably one of the few possibilities. I don't really see a lot of other options. Another potential option was Demir Ege, who played this past season at Rio Ave. Reports at the time when he was at Rio Ave is that Porto were interested, Sporting were interested, Benfica were interested. He's valued around 7 or 8 million. You could include him in the deal. Benfica in the past have had interest in Al Musrati, but I think that has subsided. But he could potentially be offered. There are options, right? Right now, all indications are Beşiktaş are preferably looking at a loan with obligation to buy. So a possibility would be we loan him for 10 million. I'm just putting something out there, 10 million loan fee, and then another 25 million obligation to buy, or another 20 million obligation to buy. But that way you can push that fee down the road, which again comes into play with the whole Dikilitas project and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind, we've already got 13 million euros that we have to pay for our friend Tammy Abraham next summer. Well, over the next 5 years. But that comes into play when that triggers after one appearance. Then we have Jurasek from Benfica, who, if he does a good job at Beşiktaş, we have the option to buy him, I believe, for 8 million euros, according to Benfica's report. And then, you have Kökçü now, and it's all good and well if you push it down the road. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a lot of money. Now, my personal opinion, do I think it is responsible for Beşiktaş to spend this type of money? No, I don't think it is. I don't think Beşiktaş are in a position right now where it's prudent for them to spend these types of fees. I think Beşiktaş are a club that are, first and foremost, we are in a situation where we are rebuilding, we are overhauling the squad. We have a lot of gaps to fill. We have to get at least a left winger. We have to get a number 6 probably, because Al Musrati and all those guys are, on their way out. We have to get a right back, and if Jetson leaves, we have to get a number 8, right? So number 8, Orkun, great, but Orkun taking up pretty much the entire budget there where does that leave us for a number 6 transfer? Where does that leave us for a left winger? Where does that leave us for a right winger maybe? Where does that leave us for a right back? Where does that leave us for a backup striker? Because it's also something we wanted. So I think that regardless of how you see Orkun as a player, I think he's a fantastic footballer, and I'd love to see him in the Beşiktaş shirt, don't get me wrong. But I think financially it's not the most responsible thing to do. I don't think Beşiktaş have currently, maybe in 1 or 2 years, we will have the financial means to make transfers like this. But I think right now, before the Dikilitaş project has even properly started, I think Beşiktaş do not have these means. And of course, by doing obligations to buy and by spreading the payments out over multiple years, you are alleviating yourself a little bit from that financial pressure. And you need to keep in mind, if we get out of the bank union agreement, the club annual income goes up significantly. I'm talking $50 million annually. There's a lot of money. So of course, then if you're doing like, an annual payment of 5 million or something for Orkun, it's not that big of a deal. But if you do an annual payment for Orkun, you do an annual payment for Abraham, you do an annual payment for Jurasek, you do an annual payment for a right back, for a left winger, it all adds up pretty quickly. And then suddenly that 50 million extra, maybe you're spending 25 million of that already every year on just paying off transfers from this summer, right? And then you have to do transfers in the next windows in January and next summer, this January after that, the summer after that. So you're putting a lot of pressure down the road. Now, having said all of that, I do believe if you are going to pull the trigger on a major transfer like this, I think there could be nobody better to do it on than Orkun Kökçü. He is 24 years old, doesn't turn 25 until late December. So he is very much in the prime of his career. And he, as a midfielder, players tend to not really reach their peak until they're like 28, 29. So he's at a place in his career where investing in him long term is a good idea. Whether or not it's financially responsible is a different matter, but I think if you're going to take a risk like that, if you're going to take a punt like that, you couldn't do it on a better player. He loves the club. He is willing to sacrifice a lot for the club. He is willing to put his ambitions to play for Europe's greatest clubs aside to wear your jersey. This is a potential... this is a guy that we could see wear the jersey for 10 years. This is a guy we could see wear the captain's armband. This is a guy who we could see becoming het boegbeeld van the club. The Steven Gerrard of Beşiktaş, essentially. The new Şifo Mehmet, the new Sergen, the new Quaresma. He could be that next figure in the club, zeitgeist. So I don't approve of taking these sorts of financial risks, but I think if you're going to do it, then you couldn't do it on a better player than Orkun Kökçü. Anyway, thank you all for watching this update video on Orkun Kökçü and the whole situation. Grand Theft Kökçü, if you will. Let me know in the comments what you think. Should Beşiktaş pull the trigger and take this financial risk and bring in Orkun Kökçü? How do you feel about it? What do you think? Are you excited at the prospect of signing Orkun Kökçü? Are you going to get an Orkun Kökçü shirt to help the club pay for that immense transfer fee? Let me know. And also, if you're a Benfica fan, let us know how you feel about this whole situation, how you feel about him as a player. Do you think he did a good job in the last 2 seasons at Benfica? Are you a little bit disappointed? And all that kind of stuff. Let us know in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to go and check out our WhatsApp community. Scan the QR code in the middle of your screen. Check out our Patreon on patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast for lots of exclusive Beşiktaş content, or simply hit the join button on our YouTube channel and join us there. Hope to see you in the community chat room. See you all down the road. And if you're not joining us in the community, at least leave a comment. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thank you. Bye-bye. Let's go Beşiktaş.